Hey everyone, welcome back to the Multi Passionate Mama podcast. I'm so excited that you're here with me, and I'm so thankful that you come and listen because it means the world to me. Today, we're going to talk about surrender, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to tell you my story because it is another solo episode today, and I have a journey that I've been on over this summer that I want to share with you. I've mentioned this a couple times, but I have been officially hired as an adjunct makeup professor, which means that I'm going to be teaching the beginning makeup course for the theater department at BYU, which is the college that I graduated from just a few years ago. And this has been a really interesting journey as I've gone through this hiring process, but it wasn't really the hiring process that was so fascinating. It was really the emotional journey that I went on because there's a lot of reasons, and we're going to go through them as we go through this episode because I wanted to, I don't know, kind of explain and talk about like where my beliefs were, where my hangups were as I have been called kind of to step into this role and how it has kind of made me grow. And I haven't even started yet. The day that this episode airs will be kind of my first day teaching, sort of. It's kind of the day after. I'll explain it. It's a little bit complicated. And it might help to understand that this wasn't really something I was looking for. I was not applying for jobs. I was not looking for a career as a professor. I was not looking for a career in makeup. If you've ever like looked at my bio or read my bio, I don't put makeup artist on my bio. I have never like officially been a teacher. I have taught podcasting for the last year. I have been a coach, but my last like real job in any sort of corporate setting was as a Costco sample lady almost 16 years ago. And so I have felt very intimidated stepping into this. In some ways, I have felt like, wait a minute, this isn't the direction I was planning on going. What's happening here? So let's start. We're going to start a little bit back. We're going to start with um, I went to college initially intending on studying opera. I wanted to sing and do music, and then I didn't get into the School of Music when I was 18, and then I got married and had kids, and then I came back 10 years later and I auditioned for the School of Music again in 2018, and I again was not accepted, and I was totally devastated, and it was a whole thing. And this time I was already nearly completed with my other degree that I had been pursuing sort of online. And I kind of was a BYU student for like 12 or 13 years, like for a really long time. And that degree was in family studies with an emphasis in home and family living. Well, home and family living with an emphasis in sewing. So I was studying sewing. That was kind of the emphasis. But I had a lot of like research, and I didn't love the degree program. And it really said to me personally, like, this is the degree you're pursuing because you weren't good enough to be a singer. That's what it said to me, which is not okay, and it's not good to tell yourself things like that, but that's the mindset I was in when I didn't get into the School of Music. Like, how can I keep pursuing this major? So I had heard from the sewing professor that there was another degree program that was in costume studies, that was in costume design over in the theater department. And I never understood quite why the sewing department was different from the costume design major until I requested a double major and I applied and was accepted as a double major student, which doesn't happen very often. Like when I did the application process, I was way over the credits that you're supposed to have as a double major. And they also told me that most people don't get accepted as a double major, but for some reason they were like, yes. And they let me be a double major, even though I should not have been accepted or approved. They said yes. And I got to be a double major, even though I was like a super duper duper senior. And I had three kids with special needs, and my life was insane. I got to be a double major doing costume design in the theater department. But kind of like and then it turns out that the costume department, the costume design major is mostly drawing. It's mostly like art. We didn't do any actual sewing in that degree field, which was really interesting. So those are my two majors, was the costume design and the sewing major. Those are my kind of my two degrees. But the sister major, or the sister like field of the costume design program, was the makeup design. So I did all of the makeup design classes alongside all of the costume design classes. So even though I didn't like say it anywhere on like my degree program, I also did all of the makeup design classes through my degree program. This is the Multi Passionate Mama podcast. I studied like a lot of different things in college, even though they were all under just a couple of degree programs. Because even though I studied the family studies major, I also studied like autism and um like like human development type stuff within that major. As well as the sewing, because the sewing was only like 4 or 5 classes. I also took cooking classes. I took like, it's so funny how many different things I actually studied in college. It was a lot of things. And then within the theater major, I was required to take like a class for every single theater department. Basically, my college career made me a very, very well-rounded person. I also studied like music during that time because music was what I wanted to study that I didn't get into that program for, but I still took music lessons the whole time. I took a public speaking course, I took entrepreneur classes and business classes because I was interested in that. I was a college student forever. I started in 2008, I graduated in 2021, and I took a very wide variety of courses in college. So even though my degrees, well, and the truth is that my degrees, like titles, are really confusing and don't make any sense. So the point is that within my degree program, I took all of the makeup for theater courses. And there's like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 courses, something like that. I took many of them. I designed for shows, and I actually designed for shows over COVID, which was fascinating, and took some of those makeup design courses over COVID, which meant that halfway through our semester, we were sent home and had to do all of our big makeup projects from home, which was fascinating. And I have some hilarious, amazing stories from my time in that program, and I loved that program. So even though I went to college wanting to be a singer, and I've got music notes behind me, and music is what I love, and I'm a singer songwriter, and I also love speaking. Makeup's actually also a passion of mine, and I do my makeup every single day, like without fail. Like that's my personal care routine. Like that is what I do. When I was a little kid, my mom has the story about how I got a makeup kit for Christmas, and I took my makeup kit, I snuck it over to our friend's house and did my makeup in her closet and got makeup all over her closet floor after my mom told me I wasn't allowed to bring it over to her house. I have loved makeup since I was very, very young, and I started wearing makeup the moment I was allowed to, which was when I was 14. I've just always loved makeup, and I've been I don't I just it's just been something I've been fascinated with forever and loved doing elaborate makeup and wearing glitter and having, glamorous makeup my whole life. And I've improved in my makeup abilities on my own and through my study of it in college ever since. So, if you know me, like on a personal level, the fact that I'm now a makeup professor is probably not that shocking to you. But if you don't, the fact that being a makeup professor is actually a thing that you can do in this world might be kind of shocking. And even saying it out loud is like, wait, that's a real thing. And for the record, I'm an adjunct, so I'm not even like a real professor, although I may be someday, who knows. So, anyways, I studied makeup in college, and it has to begin there because what happened was back in May, I received an email from, actually it was the costume professor, but they work so closely together with the makeup department that they're just sort of together on all the things. And they received an email saying, "We are looking for an adjunct professor. Will you please apply for the position?" This was surprising because I do not meet any of the qualifications for this position. They were looking for somebody who had a master's degree in, I mean, even a master's degree, but a master's degree ideally in makeup, which, did you know you can get a master's degree in makeup? Right? You can, by the way. You can get a master's degree in theater makeup, but you can also get a master's degree in theater, theater education, or something related to theater, or even just a master's degree, but something related to theater would have been good. Um, you can have, they also wanted like experience teaching. I can't remember how many years they wanted, but they wanted like 6 years of hands on experience doing something with makeup. I had zero of these requirements. I left college and did not pursue being a makeup artist. I could have. I have a full on makeup artist kit. Uh, I have done exactly one thing with my makeup kit since graduating, and that was I did face painting at a friend's party for a bunch of kids. I did some face painting. It was fun. They had some really elaborate designs they wanted me to do. Um, that's about it. Like, I haven't really pursued it. It wasn't really the thing I wanted to do. I love doing my own makeup, but what I really love is performing. Performing was kind of the way I wanted to go. And I graduated college and I started pursuing music. And I wrote my album and I created my podcast and I started coaching, and that's kind of the direction I went. So they reached out to me and they said, "Will you apply for this makeup adjunct position?" And I was kind of like, okay, I don't actually meet any of the requirements for this position. But I applied for the position, and then they reached out to me again like a week or two later and they said, "Did you apply? We want to make sure that you applied for this position. We really want you to apply for this position." And I was like, "Yep, I applied a couple days ago." But I thought it was really interesting that they were like, "We really want you to apply. Make sure you apply." It felt intimidating, but just really interesting that they wanted me to apply, because it just was an interesting situation. So it took a long time between the application and getting an interview. And what was interesting about the application was, again, I haven't had like a real, I'm kind of a stay-at-home mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I've been doing all these other things that are, not using applications and applying for jobs. And so, like, when I was writing my cover letter and putting together my application, like, I hadn't done these things. I had to like Google how to write a cover letter and like do a decent job of it because I hadn't done that. And it was like, okay, what skills do I bring to the table here when I don't bring the skills that they are looking for? And that's a really fascinating thing to ask yourself. Like, how can you excel in a setting that you're not expecting yourself to be in? And so it was applying all of the knowledge that I've gained over the years, especially over coaching and especially over, frankly, motherhood, because motherhood has a lot to do with what I've learned over my lifetime and managing chaos, frankly. How can I apply the skills that I have to this new opportunity? And so I was able to craft this cover letter and I applied, and they brought me in for this interview. And it was very quickly obvious that I was the only person being interviewed for this position, which surprised me because I was kind of expecting that there would isn't that a typical thing in a job where there's like multiple people being interviewed? And one of the things that I was really expecting as I went through this process was to be asked, do you want this job? I was never asked if I wanted this job. It just kind of was happening. And so throughout the process, I was still deciding if this was something I really wanted because I hadn't really taken it seriously because I hadn't really thought that they were going to hire me. So I had submitted the application. I was like, I'm not qualified. Why would they hire me? I realized that I have these skills that I could do this. And at the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I could go teach a classroom of 20 college students how to do makeup. Like, I've been doing this forever. Like, I could totally do this. And it's not a big deal. And then as I got into it and I went to this interview and I started to really understand what this involved and what it entailed, I kind of started to get intimidated and go, oh, yeah, I'm starting to recall all of the ways in which I felt really inadequate at doing theater makeup when I was in this degree program. And it was like, do I remember everything that I was taught in college? And I was really fascinated. And what was really interesting is because of all of the inner work that I've been doing, because of all the things I've been taught and all of the ways I've been learning how to analyze my thoughts over the last few years, instead of and I definitely did swirl. Like I definitely got into this whole like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. What did I just get myself into? Because again, they never asked me like if I wanted to do this job. I went to the interview and it was like, okay, like you can do this, right? And I was like, yeah. As they're asking me questions like, do you think you can manage these students, with all these different learning styles? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. That part doesn't worry me. It's the doing of these skills that I haven't done for like 4 or 5 years that I'm not totally sure I ever mastered that well in the first place. I can do my own makeup great. If we're doing a test of how well Carolee could do her own makeup, I'm gonna pass. But if we're going to have a test on how well I can do somebody else's makeup in front of a whole bunch of people, like, how well can I do old age makeup to teach 20 people how to do old age makeup? I don't recall myself being the most amazing old age makeup doer in the first place. I remember barely being adequate at this skill set. Like, I don't Like I was going, I don't know that I feel totally competent at the makeup doing part of this. The teaching part, okay, I'm teaching all the time. And then I had this experience of like I somehow you have to remember that well, and you don't remember this because you're not living my life. So I will tell you over the summer, this whole summer has been such a fascinating growth experience because I had May, the end of May, which was school was still in. I went to the podcasting summit. Was asked if I wanted to apply for this job, and I applied. And then mid June, and then I was sick for a couple weeks, and I rebranded my podcast, and all that kind of happened at once. And then mid June, I got this concussion, and I was like, "What happened to my life right now?" My brain stopped working. I was laying on my couch with this ice pack over my head all day trying to keep my boys from killing each other, sending my other two to the library so they could just stay apart, and trying to just exist with my brain on ice for weeks and then a month. And then I did this interview probably a month out from the concussion. And I'm like, I'm normal. I don't have a concussion. I'm fine. That was kind of my like, I can brain. It's fine. It's all good. Like, because I had given myself this deadline of like, okay, I've had a concussion for a month and the concussion's over now. Like, I'm better. Everything's great and normal. I did my resting. It's over. But like, how much was I really like allowing myself to recover? I tend to not give myself enough space and enough recovery time. And I think a lot of us maybe can relate to that. So I was trying to do all that. Plus, summer is overall just an overwhelming time with my kids being home all the time and getting, frankly, just getting yelled at by Josh pretty much all day, like pretty much 24/7. He didn't want to do anything else but just yell in my face about whatever thing he was obsessed with at the moment. And that was hard and that was difficult and all these things and all these complications. So this opportunity is presented to me and I'm like, is this what I really want? Is this what I really want? Do I really want to teach makeup? Do I really want to become a professor? That's not really where I saw my life going. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been saying that I'm an entrepreneur forever, for like 15 years. I've been like, that's the identity that I have put on myself is I'm an entrepreneur. And I decided a long time ago that entrepreneur was the only thing that would work for me as a mom. That when I quit being a Costco sample lady, the entrepreneur was it for me. And so I had this kind of identity crisis of how how can I let go of the entrepreneur identity and step into being an employee? That was really hard for me. But I've been working on looking at those thoughts. And yes, I swirled because of the concussion and because of the summer and the yelling and all the things. Life was chaotic because life gets lifey, right? But taking a step back and looking at those thoughts is so important. It's so beneficial to go, why? Why am I so afraid of spending 10 hours a week being an employee? Why does that scare me so much when this is a wonderful opportunity that has been presented before me? It's such a gift. And I'm not sure that I want it. And that's kind of where the topic of surrender really comes up. Because I think really often in our lives, things don't go the way we plan. Like they really don't. Like the concussion was not something I planned, and being sick was not something I planned. And then there's just life throws things at us in ways that is very unexpected. And if we can change our perspective, and if we can look at those things and go, oh, this is all for my growth and learning. This is also that I can become better. Everything that is handed to me is for me. Oh, this is for me. That doesn't mean I have to choose everything thrown at me. That doesn't mean that this opportunity is something I have to take, but it changes my fear of it. Because if I'm acting out of fear, then that's not good. I don't want to act out of fear. I want to act out of love. And if I'm acting out of love towards this opportunity coming towards me, then I don't have to be afraid of it. I don't have to be afraid of my growth. I don't have to be afraid of messing up. And I can look at this as I'm going to improve in my confidence as a leader, as a teacher, and I'm going to be serving these students. And what a gift. And if I really look at myself and with love instead of fear, then I can go, wait a minute. I have the ability to grow into the person I need to be to teach what I need to teach, whatever concepts I am missing in my brain from when I learned them originally 4 or 5 years ago. I can learn those concepts. I don't have to teach every single one of them tomorrow. There's time. And then the way they set it up, which I'll explain in a minute, is so beautiful, so giving, so loving. I have so much like just love poured out me from this staff, from from the people at BYU, so that I have the opportunity to become the professor, not to become the teacher that I need to be. Like I have a lot to give these students. I have a lot of knowledge of like their worth. And I've gone on this growth journey of becoming aware of my own worth over the last few years. And if I can help them know more about their worth and about how loved they are, then maybe that's all I really need to do. And maybe that this opportunity that was presented to me was here for a reason. Maybe it's so that I can learn how to step into my own power and learn that I actually am good enough to do this. And we aren't usually, or ever, we're not usually handed things that make us jump. We're not given things that make us leap far, far, far out of our comfort zone, out of where we can go. And yeah, this is certainly out of my comfort zone, but it's in incremental steps. So the way this has been set up for me is like the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, first of all, I should tell you that they we did the interview and they were just like, "Yep, you're the only," like they didn't tell me I was the only one being interviewed, but they were like, "This is yours. Like you are kind of it." And then they were like, "Okay, before you can officially be hired, you have to have an interview with the head of the department, who I also know and am friends with." Like I walked into the room with the two people interviewing me and we gave each other hugs because we were friends, because we did all this other stuff together just a few years ago. Like I was designing shows with them, and I mean I was a student then, but we're all friends. Like this is a very amazing, loving, wholesome environment. Like I'm so happy to be working with them. And so they were like, "Okay, you have to meet with the head of the department, who I also know and love, who's also an amazing human being." So we had this phone interview, and I was very much expecting it to be an interview and it to be like, "Do you want to take this job?" And instead, she says, "This isn't really an interview. This is a welcome to the team." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was very much still like, I'm not totally sure I want this. I'm having this whole like I didn't say any of this, but internally I was freaking out because I'm going, I don't know if I can do this. I'm having this identity crisis. It took me all summer. It took me a long time to come to terms with like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I was meant to do this. I don't know if I can not be an entrepreneur. And coming to like terms with this, oh wait, it's only 10 hours a week. I can still be an entrepreneur. This was meant for me. Oh, I can do this. I can grow into the person I need to be successful at this. And so the way they set this up is that the there is another professor who I met with for the first interview who teaches makeup, and she is going to teach the other class of beginning makeup, and she's going to teach it the day before I teach. So I'm going to watch her teach it, and then I'm going to teach it. So I get to watch it modeled for me, and then I get to do it right after she does. And she's one of the most amazing humans. Like, she's the epitome of class, and she was my professor, and I just adore her. And it's just such a beautiful opportunity that I spent a really long time hemming and hawing over. It took me so long that like my energy around it was really iffy. It was really, really like, yeah, I'm not sure that I want to do this. I'm not sure it's for me. I'm not. I was really clinging to the version of me that was like the story I told myself was that I'm an entrepreneur and this is not the right path for me because I'm supposed to be an entrepreneur and a singer. And as I have allowed myself to see the beauty in this and see how it's going to make me grow and how it already has. I mean, I guess make is not the right word because we're never forced to grow, right? I could have said no. I could have blown it all up and been like, no, not doing it. We have to allow ourselves to grow. No one's forcing you to step up. You can always say no. But because I have allowed myself to grow, I'm going to be so much better for it, even though it has been, it's like scraping off the rough parts of me, especially the parts of like, I don't deserve this. That's been a huge chunk of this whole thing of like, I don't have a master's degree. I don't have the experience. Like, what am I doing here? I can't even tell you how many times those words have flooded my mind where I'm like walking into this classroom and I haven't even been in there with students yet. Although I have a feeling that when I'm finally in there with the students, I'm going to be like, all right, I got this. Wait, I don't know yet. I haven't actually started teaching yet. But I'm in there and I'm like, I find myself asking permission. I find myself still in student mode of like, and just going, what am I doing here? Like I find myself going back and forth in some moments I'm like, I got this. I can handle this. I know exactly what I'm going to say. And then I find myself in these other moments where I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't deserve this. I don't belong here. I can't do this. I'm not enough. Just like freaking out internally. And it's scary. It's scary to grow. It's scary to learn. But I think that my lesson here that I want to share with you is that we don't have to grow all at once. And we think that we do. Like it's really easy for me to begin this new job and this new phase of my life and be like, I have to be completely ready the day that I start teaching. I have to be completely ready to teach college students. Like, what the heck? I have to be completely ready now. But I don't. I just have to be ready for day one. I don't have to be ready to teach the old age makeup and to teach, all of some of these topics that I'm like, I haven't even like gone over this in 4 years. Like, I have to study up to remember some of these topics. I don't have to be 100% ready for the entire semester today. I have time to expand. I have time to learn and grow. And what's amazing about this concept is that the same is true for these students that I'm teaching. I'm not expecting them to know all of the curriculum for this course on day one. They're here to learn and grow, just like I am. I'm here to learn and grow. I'm here to expand and to become the teacher that I want to be. We don't have to be everything today. We get to become it. And we are always becoming. We are always growing into greater and better versions of ourselves. And there's always going to be a higher version we could be, but we need to love where we're at now instead of condemning where we're at now because where we're at now is better than where we were yesterday. And it's all important and it's all good and it's all so beautiful. Well, we got to take a deep breath and slow down and remember to see the beauty in this moment. It's really easy to just panic, think that we can't do it, and see the everything of what we need to do that's laid out before us and think we have to have it done now. We don't. what's that hilarious, I don't know, thing that they say? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's exactly how I'm going to take this semester and how I'm going to take this experience is one bite at a time. And so, what I need to be able to do when I teach on Tuesday is, or I guess not Tuesday, I teach on Thursday for the first time. I just need to be able to teach Thursday's class. And the thing is I'm going to learn the most about teaching Thursday's class from Wednesday's class when I watch the other person teach it. That's going to be the best part of it. Is I'm going to get to watch her do it first and then I can model what I do after her, or I don't have to. I can do it my own way if I want to. I can do what feels right as long as, I'm teaching them what they need to know. And it's this amazing growth opportunity. And I think the last thing I want to end with is that we fear growth opportunities. It's oh, they're scary. And I think I said that earlier. They're so scary. We're so afraid to grow. We're so afraid to blossom and to become the butterfly. It's a scary experience. I mean, what does the butterfly do? First it's a caterpillar, and then when it goes into the cocoon, it has to like dissolve into a pile of goo before it becomes a butterfly. And it's so scary to dissolve into that pile of goo and not be totally sure what's going to come out on the other side, right? Just know that when you feel like you're a pile of goo, there's something incredible, like just miraculous on the other side of that cocoon. If you're feeling cocooned right now, just wait. What's on the other side is so, so freaking amazing. So I'm hoping that that's what's on the other side of my cocoon because that's what this whole summer has been. It has been a cocoon season for me for sure. So that is what I want to leave you with today. Recognize when you're in a cocoon because that growth journey, it's worth it. It's totally, totally worth it.